I'm making this video today because I feel that understanding resistance in a very deep way is what allows for us to liberate ourselves from so much of our suffering. Because resistance is suffering. When we resist what is, it creates so much pain in our life. So in this video, I'm really going to take a deep dive into what resistance actually is and how we can use resistance to our benefit. But before I begin, if at any point you find that this information is helpful, then please like, share, comment, and subscribe so that more people have access to this information. And lastly, if you're wanting my guidance, please reach out to me at the email provided in the description box below. Watch where you're going. Years ago, one of my teachers told me a story about resistance that has always stayed with me. He said there was this racetrack in France. I can't recall the name of the track, but it was really difficult. And there was this giant wall and this huge curve. And the track, the area where it was located, would rain quite a bit. And whenever these drivers would get to this specific curve with this giant wall, they would inevitably crash into the wall. But there was this one coach that had so much success with training certain drivers to not hit this wall. And someone asked him one day, "What's your trick? How do you get these drivers to not crash into this wall?" And he said, "Oh, it's really simple. I just make sure that they're always looking where they want to go." And the way that my teacher described this in regards to resistance was really interesting because he said that resistance is akin to crashing into this wall. And you're going maybe over 100 miles an hour, depending on how much you're resisting something. And you crash into a wall when you're resisting what is. You're so focused on the very thing that you don't want to happen, or the very thing that's in front of you that you're not liking, and you smash into it when you resist it. You can think of the amount of resistance that you have towards something as the speed with which you're flying against something. So let's say you're flying down the freeway at 125 miles an hour. If you hit a wall, it's going to hurt and damage you a lot more than something that you might have less resistance about. So if you have less resistance, your car is moving slower and you're going to still maybe hit the wall, but it's not going to have the same impact as something that you deeply care about. The more resistance that you have about something just means that you're more attached to things needing to be a different way. And that's what's creating the resistance in the first place. So in order for us to avoid resisting things, what we need to do instead is to look at where we'd like to be, is to focus on where we want to go, right? So this is the key with living in a state of non-resistance, is allowing yourself to see the wall. It's not like you're ignoring the wall in front of you, but instead of taking all of your awareness, which is what you are, and focusing it on what you don't like, take that awareness and focus it on where you would like to focus it on. Because we're always going to see what we're looking at. I remember a long time ago sitting deeply in meditation and getting this very strange understanding from some other place that wasn't coming from me. And it was that exact message. And the message was, you will always see what you're looking at. And the way that I understood that was so different than just hearing somebody say it. It was as if I was embodying what that meant. And so it's such a simple thing, and it sounds almost ridiculous. But wherever you put your awareness is what you are going to see in life. So if you're looking at something that you don't like, let's say somebody's pissing you off, or there's a quality about someone that you just can't stand, instead of taking your awareness and focusing on that so deeply, which is just amplifying the fact that you don't like what you're looking at, if you want to have a more pleasant experience and not resist what's right in front of you, then you need to find something else to look at. If you want to be feeling lovely emotions, then we need to be thinking about lovely things. Now, there's a caveat here, which is please do not suppress any of your emotions. But the way to releasing these negative emotions, the way to let them go, is never by expressing them and projecting them onto the person that you're having the problem with. In the example of somebody pissing you off. What you want to do instead is you want to learn how to go in and you want to learn how to process your emotions on your own. Now, obviously, if this is something that you're having a hard time with, please come to me or find somebody else that can help you through this process. But it's so critical that we learn how to process our emotions on our own. Now, in no way am I saying that we can't have conversations with people about things that are bothering us, but we need to do it in a cool, calm, collected manner, because that's when we have productive conversations. That's when conversations become conversations and not arguments, not explosive, reactive arguments that get us nowhere, because that's only going to reinforce our state of victimhood. From wanting to having. Being in a state of resistance is always being in a state of lack. You're always in a state of wanting things to be different than they are, and not in a state of having. You're not having life. You're not allowing yourself to fully experience what is when you're in a state of wanting, when you're in a state of resistance. Remember, you are life. You're not separate from life. You're not separate from existence, from what is. So when you fight against what is, you're always in a state of not being happy. A really simple way to test this theory is to do two things. Take one day and decide that you're going to see everything around you as beautiful. Every person that you look at, everything that happens to you, every thought in your mind, everything that unfolds that day is beautiful. Find absolutely anything that you can that just makes you feel good. And the more you do that during that day, you're going to notice what kind of day you're going to have. And then the next day, I want you to practice doing the opposite. Find all of the things that you don't like, things that bother you, things that you wish were different, things that annoy you, things that you think are ugly. And you're going to look at the day and you're going to pick out all of those things, all of those negative things, and then see how your day is going to unfold. Now, spoiler alert, you can imagine how this is going to go down, because it's putting resistance to the test. We go from this state of non-resistance, which is completely accepting, seeing the beauty in everything, and allowing life to unfold in front of you just as it is, and relishing that, really allowing the beauty of that to come through. And you end up having a beautiful day because it makes you feel beautiful inside. And the next day, you have a really crappy day because what you're feeling is a reflection of what you're seeing outside. You're feeling ugly inside. You're feeling annoyed. You're feeling frustrated. Nothing is going the way you want it to. And so what you're experiencing inside is unpleasant. And that is essentially what's happening when we're resisting what is, when we're resisting life. And the degree to which we resist what is the degree to which we suffer. It is the degree to which we have a painful life, a life of suffering, a life of unfortunate circumstances and unfortunate people around us. We never get into a higher place by approaching life through resistance. We stay low, we stay in survival mode, always. It's a guaranteed thing. From becoming to being. When we're in a state of being, then we're in a state of deeply being identified with our true nature, which is being itself, which is awareness. Awareness just is, right? It isn't becoming anything. It's like when people say, expand your consciousness. Your consciousness is expanded. The nature of consciousness is. Consciousness is changeless. It doesn't need to expand. It doesn't need to do anything. What's happening is that you're just becoming more and more aware, so it seems like your consciousness is expanding. But in reality, what's happening is that you're just having longer periods of being aware of your awareness. I'm all for self-improvement. I'm all for introspection, finding those blind spots and looking at where we need to make changes. And that has to do with taking a hard look at what is and making improvements, right? So it doesn't mean that we stay stagnant and we just accept ourselves and all of our flaws as they are. But our flaws are human. Our flaws are having to do with our conditioning, having to do with the human personality, the personal self. But our true self is perfect. Our true self doesn't need any fixing. It's already whole. And the more we identify with our true self, the more we get to the root of what really needs to happen, which is getting into that state of being as much of the time as possible. Stop waiting. Now, so many spiritual masters talk about how heaven is within you, right? Christ said that. Yogananda talks about this a lot, how we have the ability to manufacture, literally manufacture any emotion that we want inside of us, right? That's where our emotions are actually happening. They're not happening out there. Now, everybody knows this, but yet everybody is waiting for the world around them to affect them so that they can then feel a certain way. But once you realize that you get to manufacture any emotion that you want inside of you, you can begin to have those feelings. You don't have to wait for things outside of you to affect how you feel inside. This is such an empowering thing because it means that you don't have to wait anymore. You don't have to wait to be happy. You don't have to wait for your life to change in order for you to feel good. You can start feeling good right now because guess what? You're the one that gets to make those emotions. You're the one that makes them within you. They're not coming from out there. See how many lovely things you can feel. I do this all the time in my meditation. I'll sit there and I'll say, God, let me feel you. Let me feel what you feel like. And I get goosebumps all over my body, just chills and chills of ecstasy. And you can do this at any time you want. You can just decide, I'm going to feel a certain way. Keeping your heart open. This is something that Michael Singer talks about a lot. And the point that he brings up, which I absolutely love, is that it's much easier to learn how to not close your heart than to think that you can keep your heart open. Because he says, if I ask people, just keep your heart open, people don't always know what that means and how to do that. But he says, if something hits you, if an experience that you don't like hits you, which means that you're resisting what is, then all you have to do is not close your heart. And he says, when I tell people that, everybody knows what that means. And this is such an essential part of letting go, because as we're practicing letting go, what we're really letting go of is our resistance, right? It's our resistance to what is, our resistance to identification with the personal self, our resistance to not wanting to stop feeling these negative emotions that we're holding on to, right? The list goes on and on. Some people have resistance to the practice of letting go itself. So anything that you're resisting is what you're needing to let go of. And the more that you can approach letting go as this process of just not closing your heart, just keeping your heart open no matter what. Because we always think that this is some sort of a protective mechanism. It feels like we're protecting ourselves when we keep our heart closed, when something is happening to us that we don't like. But it's actually the opposite, because this is how our samskaras are created, right? In yoga, they talk about samskaras are an energy pattern that's going around and around and around in a loop because we've not allowed ourselves to fully allow that experience to come in and go out. So this is why it's so important to understand the role that resistance plays in our life, because resistance of what is creating these wounds. It's what creates all of our blockages. And the way that I like to play around with keeping my heart open or not closing my heart is by tuning into this all day long. So if something is happening to me, it might be the simplest little thing that I'm starting to feel is beginning to trigger some emotion in me. I'll just notice that and I'll ask myself, what is my heart doing right now? How is this emotion affecting my heart? Am I staying open or am I closing? Am I starting to notice that I'm shutting down? And the minute that I'm shutting down, I take a moment and I check in with myself, and then I decide using my will to stay open. And I can relax into that feeling. I just allow myself to be with the feeling. Remember, parent the feeling, acknowledge the feeling, witness the feeling, and just allow it to be there. And then it will go. A wolf in sheep's clothing. Most of what I talk about on this channel has to do with realizing your true nature, your formless identity as consciousness. Because life is consciousness, right? Everything is being birthed out of consciousness. So when we understand that that's what we are, and we understand that that's what everything is, we begin to realize that we are part of that we're part of everything, that we're not separate from anything. But when we're in a state of resistance, we're always in a state of separation. We are resisting what is. So the way that we can use resistance to our benefit is to realize that it can be used as a tool. It's a tool that reminds us that we are identifying with our ego. We're identifying with being separate from what is. Because when we're resisting what is, we're going deeper into our shadows. We're going deeper into identification as a victim. We're going deeper into feeling justified about not liking how life has turned out for us. And the more we do that, the more separate we become. And there's nothing less empowering than feeling like a victim. It's so far from the truth of what you are. That's why it always feels bad. And the more resistance that you have, the worse that it feels. Because you're so far from remembering, from realizing your true nature. That's why the closer that you get to realizing your true nature, the better you feel. Because you're more in harmony with yourself, with life. And life is you. You are life. You're not separate from life. You are life. So the more in harmony you are with life, the happier you're going to be. So use resistance as a tool, as an alarm to wake you up out of the dream of life. I love you all so much. Until next time, remember to let go. Let go of trying to be anything other than the truth of what you are.